This is news analysis coming to you live on Politics and Business Television Abuja. Good afternoon and many thanks for joining us on the program for today. I'm Fatima Abubakar Oyibo. With the headlines, EFCC declares Timi Silva wanted, alert global agencies over $14.8 million probe. Nigerian military intensifies offensive amid Trump's threat of intervention. Civic group condemns vote buying in Anambra poll, urges electoral reform. On the foreign scene, deadly blast rocks Islamabad court, leaves 6 dead and dozens injured. Details of the stories and more to come shortly after the break. To stay with us. Welcome back. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has declared former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and ex-governor of Bayelsa State Timi Silva wanted over allegations of conspiracy and dishonest conversion of $14.8 million probe linked to the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board (NCDMB) refinery project. Following a court-issued arrest warrant, the EFCC has escalated the matter by placing Silva on the watch list of the FBI, Interpol, and the UK's National Crime Agency, signaling the international dimension of the investigation. In response, Silva's media aide, Julius Bokoro, described the move as politically motivated, asserting that the former governor is currently in the United Kingdom and will honor the EFCC's invitation upon his return. The development has stirred political tension in Bayelsa State, with the All Progressive Congress (APC) alleging undue pressure on the EFCC to arrest Silva. As the case unfolds, it raises critical questions about accountability and the reach of Nigeria's anti-graft efforts on the global stage. Meanwhile, in a swift response to the U.S. President Donald Trump's warning over the alleged persecution of Christians in Nigeria, the Nigerian military has launched aggressive land and air operations targeting terror bases across key northern states. Trump, in a post on his Truth Social platform, threatened to halt all U.S. aid and potentially deploy American forces guns a-blazing if the Tinubu administration fails to curb extremist violence. The Nigerian Defense Headquarters confirmed intensified strikes on insurgent strongholds, signaling a renewed commitment to national security and counter-terrorism. While the move aims to reassure international partners, it also underscores the growing pressure on Nigeria's leadership to address religious violence and restore stability in affected regions. In another development, a civic watchdog, Citizens Monitors, has raised alarm over the normalization of vote buying following the recent Anambra governorship election. In a statement by its head of communications, Olajumoke Alawode James, the group described the election as superficially calm but deeply compromised by widespread financial inducement, voter intimidation, and covert coercion at polling units. The organization warned that treating vote buying as a routine electoral feature and undermines democratic integrity and erodes public trust in Nigeria's electoral system. Despite the presence of orderly queues and functional voting machines, Citizen Monitors emphasize that these optics do not equate to a credible process if cash for votes continues unchecked. The group called on the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and security agencies to intensify efforts in curbing electoral malpractice and restoring faith in democratic participation. Their warning adds to growing concerns from other observers about the long-term implications of vote trading on governance and civic engagement. You're still watching the news. You're still watching news analysis right here on Politics and Business Television Abuja. Still to come, Tinubu administration targets NNPC over declining oil output. Details of this headline and more news content after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now on to business matters. The Nigerian presidency is preparing a major shakeup of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPC) amid concerns over the country's faltering oil production. Special advisor to the president on energy, Oluverhejian, revealed at the Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists conference that NNPC's upstream subsidiary NEPL contributes less than 10% of national output and lacks the financial muscle to drive large-scale drilling campaigns. Verheyen emphasized that Nigeria's goal of producing 3 million barrels of crude per day is unattainable under the current asset and funding model. She hinted at restructuring NNPC's asset ownership to allow more capable operators to take charge, stressing that joint ventures partners can no longer carry the burden alone. The move signals a bold step towards revitalizing Nigeria's oil sector and ensuring energy security. And now on to the foreign scene. A powerful explosion struck near the district judicial complex in Islamabad on Tuesday, killing at least 6 people and injuring over a dozen others. The blast, which occurred in vehicles parked near the court's entrance, sent shockwaves through the capital, prompting a swift response from emergency services and security forces. Authorities have cordoned off the area as bomb disposal units come through the wreckage to determine the cause and nature of the explosion. Eyewitnesses reported scenes of chaos with several vehicles damaged and victims rushed to nearby hospitals. While no group has claimed responsibility, the attack has raised fresh concerns about security lapses in high-risk zones. Investigations are ongoing and officials have vowed to bring those responsible to justice as the nation grapples with yet another act of violence targeting its judicial institutions. And now for sport news, let's join Aroko Tom.
Good day and welcome to P&B Sports News. I'm Aroko Tom. Let's dive into the top stories making headlines in the world of sports. It's history made for African football as Morocco smashed records at the ongoing FIFA Under-17 World Cup, claiming the biggest ever win at an 11-a-side World Cup in history, an incredible feat that cements their rising dominance on the global stage. In a major global development, the International Olympic Committee (IOC) has announced a landmark decision banning transgender athletes from competing in the women's events. This ruling has sent shockwaves across the sporting world and is expected to spark widespread debate about gender inclusion and fairness in sports. Back home, there's cause for celebration in Nigeria beach soccer scene. The Anambra Beach Soccer Warriors were crowned champions of the 2025 Beach Soccer League after a dramatic 5-3 penalty shootout victory over Kebbi Fishers BSC at Jabile Park in Abuja. The game ended 3-3 after extra time before Anambra held their nerves to clinch their first ever NBSL title, ending Kebbi Fishers' 2-year reign. Award winners include highest goal scorer Frank Dozie of Kada BSC with 14 goals. Best goalkeeper Shegun Basharu of Anambra Warriors, rising star Uwana Aniete of Ibom BSC, and the most valuable player Stanley Eku of the new champions Anambra Beach Soccer Warriors. That's all for now on PNB Sports News. I'm Aroko Tom. Thanks for watching and keep the spirit of sports alive.
Welcome back. Let's move on to the focus of today. That's the segment where we hold party account and answer questions that matter most to Nigerians. Our topic this afternoon strikes right at the heart of every conversation in this country. Where is the money? Since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office in 2023, the government has removed few subsidies, unified the exchange rate, expanded tax collection, and borrowed heavily, all in the name of reform and fiscal recovery. And yet, despite record revenues and massive loans, Nigeria is broke. Capital projects are stalled, ministries are dry, civil servants are protesting unpaid arrears, and inflation keeps mocking every policy statement coming out of Abuja. So again, where is the money? Let's look at the numbers. The Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, now collects over 3.6 trillion naira a month. That's a 400% increase since 2023. Customs revenue hits 3.68 trillion naira in just the first half of this year. The blue economy is booming with 1.3 trillion naira in returns. Even external reserves have climbed to $43 billion. And yet, government ministries say no capital releases since 2024. Workers at the Ministry of Human Affairs claim they've been funding official duties from their own pockets. Contractors are owed 2 trillion naira, and civil servants haven't seen their wage awards for months. It's the paradox of plenty. More money than ever before, yet nothing works. Well, to help us make sense of this economic maze, we are joined by our in-house economist, Yushau Ali, who has been tracking Nigeria's fiscal and monetary trends closely. He joins us via WhatsApp call. Yushau, welcome once again to the program.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you. Let's start with the big question. Where is the money? With revenues up across the board and trillions saved from subsidy removal, why does it feel like government is broke and citizens are poorer than ever? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I know. I can hear you.
Okay. I said, let's start with the big question. The question is, where is the money? With revenues up across the board and trillions saved from subsidy removal, why does it feel like government is broke and citizens are poorer than ever?
The money is still within the economy, and not only within the economy. What people fail to understand is that 2025 is a fiscal year where we have above 53 trillion naira budget. This 53, I can rightly point you out, about 55 trillion, because it is 54.8 trillion naira. So if there is no any victory, if custom will generate 3 trillion, revenue will generate additional trillions, but still people cannot find where is the money. The truth of it is the fact that we have a very large deficit in the budget. And this large deficit has to be funded. And if it is to be funded, you have two ways to fund it. One, you can use generated revenue. Second, you can borrow either within the domestic economy and outside the domestic economy. And that is why we see the revenue that is coming to the government very high. And at the same time also, the borrowing also very high, is as a result of very high deficit. That is one angle. The second angle to look at it is simple. If you begin to understand the sharing formula as advocated by Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, all these revenues that has been derived are shared based on constitutional provisions, and that is why we saw the momentum of sharing from 2011 between 560 billion to the present 2.2 trillion. So you share the revenues, because it's not only federal government that is spending the revenue. The revenue is spent between government and other tiers of government. But the most contending issue is the financial application of X1 and X2 budget system. What is X1 and X2 budget system? The X1 represents budget 2024, and the X2 represents budget 2025. If you make a summary of over 30 trillion, and you make also a summary of 54 trillion, you are speaking about something trillion budget still working, and that is why you find a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of troubles, especially financial troubles within the period, and that is exactly the scenario.
Okay, we've seen record loans over 152 trillion naira in public debt and $13 billion borrowed from the World Bank alone. If these loans were meant to fund development, why are projects stalling and ministries still cash starved?
It's not when you apply for loan that you get the loan. That has to be clear. There is maturity period at which loan A is funded, loan B is also funded differently. So it's not as expected that immediately you say you take loan from the World Bank of $2.2 billion, that money is coming into the economy. There are procedures and there are ways and means where these funds are applied as requested. And not only that, anytime your debt is increasing, you are also increasing the cost of borrowing. So a lot of money that has been generated by the economy is going into existing debt servicing, which is also above 9 trillion naira. So all these components, when you put them together, you see that there is need to establish a fiscal discipline where you regulate, and not only you regulate the borrowing system, but also you look into what you are making provision with regard to the financial year.
Well, critics say this government is suffering from budget paralysis, that funds are locked up, MDAs can't access cash, and the 2025 budget hasn't even taken off. Is this a sign of poor fiscal planning or deliberate cash control for political reasons? Hello? Okay, let's go on a quick break while we try to reconnect with Yushel Aliyu, our in-house economics. Stay with us. Well, we apologize for the loss in connection, and we weren't able to get through to Yusha Aliyu, our in-house economist. But don't forget, we were discussing where is the money, where is the Nigerian money. But we'll be bringing this back in our subsequent bulletins. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and don't forget, is news analysis right here on Politics and Business Television. But before we go, here is the painful truth. Nigerians, we are living in an economy where the books are rich but the people are poor. We hear of trillions in savings, trillions in revenue, and billions in new loans. Yet hospitals can't buy drugs, schools can't pay teachers, and ministries can't even print memos without borrowing paper. So yes, where is the money? It's a question not just for economists or politicians, it's a question for every Nigerian watching fuel prices rise, food costs double, and public trust collapse. Until transparency becomes policy, not propaganda, the Nigerian economy will remain a riddle wrapped in excuses and sealed with suffering. This has been our focus today on Politics and Business Television. Let's keep asking the hard questions, because